Hello. Hi. Hey.
Hey.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to BibleProphecyandTruth.com. IRL. Bible Prophecy and Truth. IRL. Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you.
I hope everybody's having a great weekend. See, this is what happens when sleep is denied.
You get what I call the goofy tired.
Yeah.
No, I'm laughing because of your video, and that's hilarious.
Hello.
I don't know how I adopted that.
It started off just hey, and then it got more and more.
And then it was like, hey, hello, and then it goes, hello. But my sister doesn't hear the back end of the hello, she said. So I don't know why.
Your mic doesn't pick it up. You go, hello.
Okay, so hello.
Now I can hear you.
Oh.
That's
okay.
Weird.
Yeah, so anyway, how was your weekend? She worked on her video, she said.
Yes, I did.
Talking about eating her Popeye's chicken.
Working on the video, eating chicken.
I know.
Part. What part is it? 10?
Minnesota
11?
Popeye's chicken.
10.
Part 10.
Wow.
Part 10.
Coming up maybe
next
in a week.
Weekend. Next
yeah,
weekend.
hopefully in a week. I may scrap at the end of it right now.
Go.
Okay.
It may be too long. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll check it out. Now remember, he won't be able to watch it right away.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Maybe next weekend. Not right away. I guess you can next weekend.
I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
Well,
that's why I just said that.
And that's a good point to bring up now, is to remind everyone that we're not going to be here Wednesday because I have a surgical procedure on Wednesday, and I'll be in overnight, and then I'll have some recovery time. So we definitely won't be here Wednesday, and we might not be here next Sunday. We'll just have to see.
We'll see how
I'm
the
feeling,
recovering.
So.
Yeah.
Well, you can just sit on there for an hour and go, hello.
No. No. Oh, no. No.
For an hour.
Without him doing a thing for a whole hour, I'll try it all different.
Go off.
They'll have no views the whole time.
That's okay, because you'll be in your own little world.
Hello. Hello.
100 ways of saying hello.
I know. Yeah. Anyway, that took off, and I don't know. I don't even know how or why. I've heard some horror stories about it.
That was a cool little short.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you stick the banner
the
out?
banner.
Yeah. Thanks.
I usually do put the banner on.
I know.
Anyway, so would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with your friends. American, hello. He says, hello.
Hey, American.
Hello.
The United States of America is pretty much there.
Yeah, I like that name. American.
So welcome.
Yeah, so anyway, sis, you want to do the spiel?
Okay, everyone. Meet my little friend.
Hello, goodbye.
My little friend.
My little friend.
This is my little friend. Oh, we're not there. We're not there yet. Oh, what's this? Oh, I'll have to translate that. If you want some awesome content and you want the truth, and you've been looking all over the internet for the truth and you can't find it, go to BibleProphecyandTruth.com. Yeah. And you can even ask him questions. You can give him feedback on his website. Oh, it says prophecyandtruth@gmail.com.
See?
You're so smart. And you can even watch our live streams on youtube.com/prophecy and truth, or head on over to rumble.com/Bible prophecy. He even has a new site. What is that? Oh, it's videos.prophecy.
Oh,
So we can hear you, but your video
she isn't.
frozen.
She isn't there. Oh, she did.
Yeah. Well, now you're. Oh,
Oh,
now
there
you're
she
back.
is.
Oh, it says my internet connection is unstable.
So it's ours that's unstable.
It just popped up on the screen. So thank you, Diane.
Okay, well, at
Appreciate
least
you.
you know it's not her.
Did you just miss everything I just did?
No, we heard everything. It just at the end you froze, but we could still hear you.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well,
So
this
we-
is
Turn the
a
banner
little
off.
friend.
We missed the acting part. Yeah.
Oh, crap.
So today we're going to talk about the news as usual, and then we're going to talk about understanding the book of Revelation, which is absolutely awesome. When you read it and understand it, there's no other book like it. It's amazing. So I'm going to share my screen, and we will start looking at the news in a sec. As soon as I close that. So there's that. So first things first, every time anything like this ever happens, you've got all kinds of people out there screaming about how it's going to bring about Armageddon, this alignment of the planets, some, prophetic thing. No, it's not. In fact, pulling that down. In fact, there's only 6 planets aligning, and there's 8 in our solar system. So it's like we're going to have a kind of a line, but then there's going to be a couple over here. It's not it's not like it never happens. It just happens periodically where planets align, and it's sorry,
It doesn't mean anything.
It's not going to do anything significant other than just be kind of cool. So for all those people out there yelling about how this is some catastrophic event, no, it's nothing. So
Yeah.
So, and then this is just an interesting article on Newsmax about, the New York prosecutor targeted President Trump. Was backed by, guess who? George Soros. And Soros funded a PAC that was key to Bragg's election. And Soros says his number one goal is to stop Trump in 2024.
Of course, that's not...
So if you're wondering about, who's behind all of the attacks and the ridiculousness of it all, now you know. It's the they. It's the same people that are doing all of this crazy stuff, trying to kill us and trying to poison us, trying to take over the world, trying to reduce the population. All of the ones that are doing the bidding of Satan, even though some of them don't know they're doing the bidding of Satan. They think he's their God. And he is, because the Bible tells us he's the God of this world. He's got them all fooled completely. So just in case you didn't know that. And then I just thought this was kind of interesting. The Jewish group responds to the Trump guilty verdict. And what it said was, without question, this is a political prosecution of a political opponent. So weaponization of the legal system, so on and so forth. But the reason I bring this up is because there's so many people that say the Jews are controlling everything. I don't know if you saw, just recently Eric Clapton saying how the Jews run everything. Well, if the Jews are running everything, then how come they think
Jews
that this
think it's wrong?
Yeah, why did they think this was wrong?
So obviously they're not the ones doing it if they're against it. I know, because it doesn't even make sense.
I just like to point out regularly how the Jews don't seem to be able to control anything, even though everybody thinks, not everybody, obviously, but there's just seems to be so many more people today that believe the Jews run everything in the world. And it's all, maybe I sound like a broken record, but it's all the propaganda that's been coming out of Islam for decades now. All over the internet, ever since the internet became a thing, they've been busy propagandizing everyone on the internet.
Hey, Jay.
With their lies. Hey, Jay, welcome, brother. So, no, the Jews don't seem to be able to control much of anything. And we have to remember it's Satan. It's the secret society. It's the they. It's the puppet masters and all the puppets and, all the layers, the many, many, many layers of their control that they have today. All organized and manipulated by Satan. That's who it is. Mm-hmm. And then this Biden deal, the one that he wants them to follow through with, gives Hamas basically everything it wants and ensures that Hamas will survive. Yeah, you might think, well, what's wrong with that? Well,
its wheels.
Hamas is a vicious, murderous gang of thugs.
Yeah.
All murdering and raping and pillaging in the name of their God, Allah.
Taking hostages.
Why do we want them to survive when they just went in and massacred, thousands of people? It's all political gaming. It's all a matter of control. And I'm going to show you an article later where it really looks like Biden thinks he's the world's dictator today. He really does. Mm-hmm. But that's in a little bit. Israel was bombarded by Hezbollah rockets in the north. It's a continuing thing. This is ongoing. It was going on well before October 7th. It's continued after October 7th. Israel's just constantly being bombarded with rockets. Everybody blames Israel for everything, but it's crazy. And then this was just an article that it's interesting because of everything we know that's going on, right? We know that they're trying to disrupt the food supply. They're trying to, if you control the food, you can control the people. And that's what they're trying to do. And there's a grocery chain, a Northeast grocer, Stop and Shop, is going to be shuttering many of their stores. Yeah. And it's all just part of, the they and their plans. And it's working. Unfortunately, it is. Mm-hmm. And then this was something the House Republicans have unearthed evidence of the National Institute of Health, the NIH, officials actually deleting FOIA. I forget what that stands for, but it's emails regarding the origins of COVID-19, the pandemic, and they're accusing them of orchestrating a conspiracy at the highest levels. Imagine that. Something we've been talking about for a couple of years now, ever since we started. Ever since we started doing lives, because even before we were talking about the news, I was talking about this stuff, where, they want to kill most of us so that they can have their little utopia that Satan has promised them. And, they're going to be leaders of the world and rule over 500 million. And, their God hates them. They don't know it, but their God hates them. and he's promising them things to get them to do stuff, the stuff they're doing, because he hates men. He hates people. He really hates all people, and he hates them, even the ones that worship him. He hates them, but he really hates the people that God chose more than anyone, the Jews and the Christians. Because God chose Abraham and his descendants, so he doesn't even care. Satan doesn't even care if the Jews are worshiping Jesus or not. He just hates them all, doesn't care. Hates Jews and Christians. And then, it's spreading. We know that Minnesota and Michigan are pretty much being overrun and controlled by Muslims. Well, here we are, Boston, Massachusetts. It's spreading out in the northern states up there. So here we go. Muslim elected to Boston City Council. Wee-ha. It's just going to continue.
Oh, yeah.
And then this is Islamic scholar. Listen to this. 9/11 was a deception. Yeah, I've heard all kinds of conspiracy theories about that, but Pearl Harbor was a deception? Wait a minute, we can go look at the sunken battleships in Hawaii.
Yeah.
It was a deception? And the Holocaust was a deception? We got people going and visiting the old sites and going, wow, eyes opened kind of stuff. This is exactly what I was just talking about. The propaganda from Islam has been going on for decades, literally tens of years. I mean, hundreds. I'm going to say probably a good 60, 70 years they've been doing this. It goes way back beyond that because they've always been about Jew hatred, but in a global setting. Ever since there's been global communications, they've been pushing these deceptions and propaganda and trying to get everyone to hate the Jews like them.
They say that they should lie to people, but they lie to each other too.
Yeah, they
do.
American said his faith is the deception.
It's crazy.
His faith is the deception. What he believes is the deception. What he believes is the deception.
You understand the deception and understand that the Bible tells us about it, maybe? Is that what?
Yeah, his faith.
Oh,
what
his
he
faith.
Believes.
Okay.
Not you.
Sorry.
No, he was just saying about this guy. This guy was saying this is a deception. This is a deception.
His faith is
the deception.
his faith
is the deception.
Yeah. Okay, now I get it. Sorry.
He's just tired.
I'm tired today. I'm not feeling very good today, so I'm faking it really well. That I'm chipper and doing well, but I've been kind of laying around all day, not really feeling well. So sorry about that.
Yeah. Don't worry, he's with us. He is worth it.
Iran loves woke students.
Why?
Well, this is their product. This is their product. These people, these students that are so pro Hamas, it's because of their work. Their
but
deception.
They don't like that LGBT stuff.
Well, no, but they don't care if they're LGBT because they just want them. They want them to be pro Hamas and hate goodness and love evil and and it's all their work. They would, if these people tried to go to Iran and live there, they would kill them. But they love having them over here and brainwashing them and having them do their work.
Islam.
Big time.
Yeah.
They love woke students because they're pushing all their propaganda. They've been completely brainwashed.
Yeah, because they're trying to turn the United States Islamic.
Yeah,
And they get it for free.
yeah, it's like free advertising for them.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's true.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Another interesting article: Hong Kong court found 14 pro-democracy activists guilty of conspiring to subvert the government. You know what that means in China, right? That means they're going to jail for life and will probably be tortured and beaten to death while they're
Yeah.
there, because they're pro-democracy and they're traitors, according to China. Yeah. Horrible. This is what they want to bring to the United States. They want to bring this kind of government here. Yeah.
American says, I think they like the woke kids because they've been sexualized. Islam is full of perverts.
No, that's true.
Oh, that's true.
That is true.
Mm-hmm.
They're
Yeah, good point.
they're pedophiles.
Yeah,
They're perverts.
that's true.
They're
And they can keep it over here.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and bring Islam into the situation.
Yeah. And then Iran is hiring European mafias to murder the Jews in Europe.
Wow.
So, but the reason I brought this up is because where do you think they're getting the money for all that? The billions of dollars that they've gotten from the United States and Europe, and they're hiring European mafias to go and murder Jews for them. I mean, it's, I keep saying it. I'm a broken record. Islam is a religion of Jew hatred.
Yeah.
It really is. It's founded on hating Jews. That's the religion.
Yeah.
And in India, this is another article. It kind of struck a chord with me because India is, it's mostly Hindu, Buddhist, but Islam is growing huge in India.
Mm-hmm.
It's growing by leaps and bounds, and they're doing things in India just like we've talked about in Europe. Murdering, killing, burning churches, things like that. But it's mostly against the Buddhists because Buddhists and Hindus are the majority of India. But I'm bringing it up because it's growing big time there. And there's an Islamic State nerve center discovered with drones, explosive jihadi material in Mumbai. 31 miles from it. Close. Yeah, in India.
Yeah.
They're, the thing about this is, when we look at what is most likely the green horse, the fourth seal of Revelation, looks like it's Islam. And, the four spirits of Zechariah that appear to be the same parallel prophecies have been working in the world for close to 2,000 years, 1,500, 2,000 years, and they've been working. They've been more successful. Some of the spirit has been more successful than others and took longer to actually create the mindsets that they basically govern or umbrella over. And it shows that Islam, or, I'm speculating here that it's Islam, but the green horse it shows that it has power over a fourth part of the earth. Mm-hmm. And Islam has had almost a fourth part of the earth for a long time now. And they've grown to where they're probably right about exactly 25% of the earth right now. The population of the world, 25% is Muslim. But the thing that I'm bringing up here is when we look at the end time, In the last days, when the Antichrist takes over, the entire world is going to be forced to be Muslim. So it's growing to the point where it's actually going to be almost certainly, I mean, like 99.999% sure that the religion of the Antichrist is going to be Islam.
Mm-hmm.
And he's going to be supported by the Pope. And that's going to bring Catholicism and Islam together, but it's going to be a submission of Catholicism to Islam, not necessarily a union.
Mhm.
And they're going to force the world to either become Muslim or swear to the Antichrist and his system and make an oath of some kind and take his mark eventually. So it's just interesting to think about and watch all these things happening in the world.
So American has a question. He said, are the 4 horsemen of the seals the same as the 4 horsemen bound at the Euphrates or the beast spoken of by David?
No.
Maybe said no. Okay, and or I should say the 4 horsemen of the 200 million army.
Right. And that's the thing, when you read the 6th trumpet, the 4 angels, there are actually 4 angels there. It says specifically that are bound at or near or in and about the Euphrates River. And they're bound for a specific hour, day, month, and a year. Right? So it's a very specific moment in time that they are bound there waiting for. Now the 6th trumpet has not sounded, so those angels are still bound, waiting for that moment. So they are definitely not the seals. The seals have almost certainly already been broken, and they relate to the 4 chariots with horses in Zechariah chapter 6, almost certainly. Those are 2 parallel prophecies, and when you put them together, it shows you 2 sides of the same coin and gives us so much information about those horsemen, which are really spirits in the world. Now, again, I have to tell you this is speculation because nobody can tell you for sure what those horsemen are yet. I know there's a lot of people that swear up and down they're the typical things that people teach about famine and stuff like that. But it doesn't really make sense what they teach, but they teach it, and there's lots of people teaching it, but I don't believe that it makes sense at all. It doesn't really follow the scripture. It doesn't line up with it. But again, I could be wrong. So, and they could be right, even though I doubt it. But that I have to admit that, because everyone who teaches prophecy has to admit that there's certain things we know for sure, and then there's certain things we can only speculate on. So I'm convinced in my own mind through my studies and through what the scriptures actually say, because the thing about prophecy is if everything about the prophecy fits what you think it is, then it might be that. But if there's one thing that doesn't fit, then it is not that. Absolutely not that. So it's definitely not what they teach. I'm taking that back. They're not right because there's too many things that don't fit. It's not that. It's something else. And I believe it is the 4 spirits from Zechariah. But again, I could be wrong. We will see, that's for sure. Oh yeah, Russia is going to delist the Taliban as a terrorist organization.
Pretty much.
Yeah, interesting, huh? Especially when you think about how Russia could very well be the bear of Daniel 7, the bear part of the beast of Revelation 13. It's very interesting to see these things happening. Yes. And this was an interesting one. Google As you know, Google bought YouTube.
He said Revelation 9:16.
The fifth trumpet.
I don't know what. I can't
That's
say.
what Revelation 9:16, I believe, is
9:16.
part of the fifth trumpet.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's we're into the sixth trumpet there. Sorry. Yeah, the number of the army of the horsemen were 200,000. That's at 200 million. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And yet, remember, the four angels were loosed at this time, which were prepared for an hour and a day and a month and a year to slay the third part of men. So we know that hasn't happened, so they have not been loosed. And if you read the seven seals, or the first four seals, which are the four horsemen, these are almost certainly already in the earth, even if they're not parallel to or not parallel to Zechariah 6, which I believe they are. Even if they're not, they are almost certainly already working in the earth. So, and these are definitely angels that are for a very specific purpose. So, and we have to remember that it's an army, it's a war, so it's not the same. It's not the same thing. It is interesting the point you're making and what you're asking about, because if you think about, these are four angels, right? And there's four horsemen. So is that the seals? Is it the seals that are broken that slay the third part of men? Something to consider, certainly. So back to this, sorry. Google, as you know, owns YouTube now, and Google is actually tightening up even more so the algorithms that they use. It used to be, and this is what it says in this article, and what is a fact. It used to be that when you searched for something on the internet, on a search engine, that it would just find whatever it could and give you that data. Well, that was a long time ago. For years now, they've been tailoring what you see depending on what they want you to see and what they want to hide from you. And it's so bad now that you really can't find, there's certain things you can't find on Google. It'll never come up, ever. It might show up as like on page 14 million, but you can never get to page 14 million, right? They've written their algorithms in such a way that it'll never ever show up on your screen. And it's getting worse. In fact, they're so bad now that can you prove this? Well, you'd probably have to have inside information at Google, but they're going to manipulate everything about the coming election. Everything, literally. And they're going to swing it the way they want it to go. And then being woke, we know exactly which direction they're going to go.
Yeah, that's why it's better to get on Rumble. If you want to see videos, it's better to
Google
get on.
is not video.
YouTube. Google is YouTube.
I'm talking about Google search engine.
Oh.
YouTube too, yes, because they're using algorithms to just basically kill you off. And then, like I was pointing out last week, I think, that I showed you a screenshot of one of my playlists, and it has little information box embedded in it showing how, it was my playlist on when is the end of the world, or no, not that one. It was the playlist on creation versus evolution. And it had a little information box about climate change, because that's their little lie that they're trying to push on the entire world in order to gain control of us. And it's like they're not just deleting your videos anymore. They're not just killing off your channel anymore. So they're letting you live, but then they're just putting little lies in there to
Yeah.
try to insinuate themselves into your videos. And that's why I had that playlist embedded, but I had to move it. I had to change that because I'm not gonna have all the people visiting my website getting Google's misinformation.
Yeah.
No thanks.
Yeah. And American says some people say Revelation repeats itself multiple ways, like a dream of Joseph, but I see it as a long sequence of events. And what do you think of the 4 angels holding the 4 winds in Revelation chapter 7, verse 1?
Yeah. We're actually going to talk about the sequence and the way to read Revelation shortly, and we're going to talk about that.
Okay.
And the 4 angels holding the 4 winds do I think that they are also the angels of the horsemen, or the horsemen aren't actually angels? It doesn't say so. They're spirits in Zechariah. They're not angels, and the angels of the 6th trumpet again are bound for a very specific moment for a specific thing. So I don't believe that they are the 4 angels holding the 4 winds of heaven. I think they're all different angels.
Except he's that way, not this way. See, I know
I'm always looking over there because that's where the text is displayed. I know.
Yeah, but actually,
so I look over.
I know, but
and I'm talking to you. So sorry. I know.
That's I know. I do the same.
That's one of my idiosyncrasies, I guess. Anyway, we're gonna talk about Revelation in a little bit, but this is just you. If you still use Google for anything other than where can I find a hairbrush, you're using the wrong search engine. Because
Amazon.
Because it will tell you where to find a hairbrush, and you'll probably be successful at that. But if you try to find out any information about anything that could be deemed against the wokeism, good luck, right? And they might feed you a little bit of information that will kind of try to sway you. And I mean, their algorithms are so good now; it's absolutely mind blowing. But switch to something, Yandex is a Russian search engine. And I've actually found that to give me really good information. And then there's DuckDuckGo. Now DuckDuckGo is just using Bing's search engine.
Yeah, Bing.
But they at least don't track you like Google and Bing do, and they don't. And you might get some better information.
Didn't Russia call like all these politicians and everything in the U.S. Satan worshipers? I thought he called all these people Satan worshipers.
He said he was fighting the Satan worshipers. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what he said.
Yeah.
Not that we're on his side. I just remembered that when he said Russia.
And that's in my the Stages Set article and video, where I talk about how Putin appears to have been invited to the 33rd degree and decided he didn't want nothing to do with that. And he's fighting the Satan worshipers, he says.
Yeah.
So, and he probably is. I don't know. It seems like, there's a line between Russia and China and like Iran, they kind of stick together. And then the rest of the world. And the rest of the world, as we know, as we found out over the last 4 years, is very much being controlled. Absolute control. All of the governments did exactly the same thing because they're all being controlled. But Russia and China and
North Korea,
Iran, they're all kind of they're on the other side of the line kind of thing. But then at the same time, it seems like Russia is kind of playing both sides, and Russia is maybe even kind of trying, being part of the they, but trying to just kind of like Elon Musk, pretending to be their enemy, because all right, you guys failed. It's my turn. And so now he's getting all of our trust and going to be our best friend. At the same time, he's doing everything that they want to do. You know, and
Yeah.
he's so into this. We're going to be on Mars and we're going to colonize the galaxy, and it's going to be like these grand sci-fis, you know. That's what his dream is, and he wants all of that. That's part of Satan's deception, you know, is that evolution is true and we're eventually going to colonize the galaxy. That's just another one of Satan's lies to keep us distracted and away from worshiping God, is to believe in this sci-fi stuff, you know, which I used to. I used to be a big sci-fi fan. In fact, I dreamed the very same things. I dreamed about a galactic civilization and, you know, flying around in a spaceship with a chip in your head that connected you to the internet all across the universe, you know, just I used to dream about that.
Actually,
that would be really cool, but that kind of technology in the wrong hands.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and it's not going to happen.
Coming back early.
Yeah.
We'll never have that kind of technology.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, because mankind would destroy themselves if God didn't step in when he does. Yeah. We'd never get there. That's what the Bible tells us. We would never get there because we would actually destroy ourselves first. Yeah, we're so smart. Yeah. So anyway, Google is not anyone's friend unless you're woke, and then they're your friend.
And then you probably aren't even on this channel.
Yeah, you're not listening to me, that's for sure. So, and then this was interesting because you've probably heard me call London Londonistan in the past. Well, here we go. This is London, not Londonistan. A massive rally across central London on Saturday. Because the British are sick and tired of this mass immigration that's destroyed London. Absolutely.
They're not going to do anything about it.
No.
It is Londonistan.
Yeah.
I mean, it's too late.
It is too late.
London has fallen, and it's sad for the Brits that live there, right? And they hate it, but it's way too late.
Because obviously that's their resistance. There's a lot of people that are resistant.
Yeah.
Against that. So.
But
it's their government. It's their government.
The Muslims have overrun London. Yeah.
Yeah, their government let that happen.
Yes.
Just like Macron.
Their government made it happen. Mm-hmm. Just like they're trying to do here in the United States and they're doing in other countries in Europe. The governments are making it happen because they're being led around by the nose by Satan. They just don't realize it. But this is all Satan's doing because Satan wants everyone to turn Muslim because, you know, he wants everyone to worship him. Naturally. Somalia. And this one, I bring this one up as well, too, just because I've talked about this a lot, where Muslims cannot leave Islam or their own family will murder them. Now, this is an article about a Muslim in Somalia that converted to Christianity and actually survived the knife attack by his Muslim relatives. It's rare that they survive it. But this is a very common occurrence where they get murdered by their own family for leaving Islam. And then in India, again, Islamic scholar says that Muslims from Turkey, Egypt, UAE, and elsewhere should attack and destroy Israel. It's funny how people are so against genocide, but they love Islam.
That genocide.
Who just wants to commit genocide. You know, and they're apes and pigs. You know, that's because that's what the Quran teaches. The Quran, the Hadith, the Sunnah, all the doctrine of Islam teaches that Jews are just apes, donkeys, and apes and pigs, and they need to all die. That's what their doctrine says. And but whoa, not just Jews.
No,
That
they're coming
extends
for
to Christians
Oh,
too.
yeah. Once they're done with that, they're coming for us.
The people of the book
People of the
are
book.
just as hated. Yeah, that's what they call Christians.
Yeah, look at that. Oh.
And then if you haven't seen this,
Oh.
this was the look that Biden gave when they asked about the Trump conviction.
These people are
This
so
little evil grin.
evil. They're so evil.
Oh,
Yes.
oh my gosh.
Yeah,
They're
because
so evil.
they're the ones behind this idiocracy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Of, you know,
He said, I don't have that much power. No, you don't. But the one who's telling you what to do has a lot of power.
your puppet master has the power, we know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, this is what I was telling you about before, where
Yeah.
he thinks he's a world dictator. He threatened
Look at his
Israel.
smug.
It refuses to end the war. What did he say? Or suffer the consequences, he said.
Well, who is he?
Well,
He's
he
barely the president.
He thinks he's a world dictator,
He's
apparently.
barely the president.
Yeah, he thinks he rules the world. He's telling another country what to do, or they're going to suffer the consequences. You know, this is because they
needs to
have
butt
so
out.
much
That's
control.
what he needs to do. Butt out.
Well, but the problem is they do have this much control.
Yeah, because
They really do.
they're allowed it.
And then tell me again how the Jews run the world.
I know.
Tell me again how they're ruling America.
Unless Biden's Jewish.
I'm not seeing that. Yeah.
It just seems like he's trying to act all tough because he wants people to think that he's not too old to run for office anymore. He's trying to look tough.
He's just doing what they tell him to.
Yeah,
That's
he's
all he's
been
doing.
given instructions.
Do you remember seeing the big speech he gave? Was it last year or the year? It was last year, I think, where there's the big red background and everything, and he was just yelling and screaming and acting like one of the dictators from these countries.
That did not go over very well.
Oh my goodness. But it's all part of the plan. I mean, this is they at work here. And he's just one of their puppets.
Yeah.
And then an Iranian dissident. So this is a woman from Iran, or actually, I think it's the guy that was being interviewed from Iran, praising Israel's war on the demonic radical Islam.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not only the demonic radical Islam, it's that Islam is demonic and radical.
Yeah.
As a whole.
Allah is
the ones that preach that they're just peaceful and loving are the ones that are deceived by taqiyya or deceiving purposely with taqiyya. Because we know that we can read the Quran where it talks about murdering anyone who won't submit to Islam. They're to be murdered. It says that specifically. So Islam is a religion that worships a devil. We know that. And I like to point this out. In the Old Testament, over and over, we see that devils are the false gods that people sacrificed to and worshipped instead of God. I've got listed a bunch of scriptures here. You can look it up where it's actual devils that God says they're worshiping devils.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone that worships a false god is worshiping a devil.
Mm-hmm.
Because these are devils that are setting up these religions. They're evil spirits that are working in people's hearts and minds. And Allah is the Baal of the Old Testament, just passed down many, many, many generations and modified slightly. But they still worship the heavenly bodies, because if you haven't noticed, the moon, the crescent moon, is part of the symbol of Islam. And Allah was the pagan moon god before Muhammad created Islam. And they're all just worshiping the same thing they have, the same false god they have been for thousands of years now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
About 3,000 to be exact. And that is it for the news today. So again, we need to remember that God's in control, that if we love God, we have nothing to fear.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not saying that we're not going to experience any hardship with all of the troubles coming upon the world. But if we love God, we have nothing to fear, because we might experience some pain, but then we're going to be with God, where there's going to be no pain and no sorrow, no death, ever into eternity.
Yeah.
This is just a blip in time. So we need to remember that. It's the promises of God that we're waiting for. So now I'm going to switch gears. We're going to go to understanding Revelation. And if you want, you can go to BibleProphecyandTruth.com under Biblical Prophecy, and chapter 10 is what we're looking at here. It's a very long article. I created this little Seymour stuff for pretty much every chapter because it's literally twice as long if you expand all of that extra text. And I had people actually complaining it was too long. So I created this where you can leave it collapsed and you only have about half as much to read. But there's just so much more information in these Seymour tabs. And it's one of these, this is the very first one that we're going to look at today. Because I'm not going to try to go through the entire book of Revelation in 45 minutes. It's literally impossible. I do have this playlist on YouTube and Rumble and on videos.prophecyandtruth.com. I've got the playlists of the 21 video series I did a few years ago, and then another playlist of the 12 live streams we did about a year ago on this channel. We did a playlist. There's a playlist on this channel, and it's embedded on a lot of the web pages where you can watch the live stream, a 12-part live stream, or you can watch the 21-part Understanding Revelation. So I'm not going to start a new Revelation study, or it would be a couple of months doing that. Because it literally takes that much time to just talk about everything in this book. But what I'm going to talk about today is how do we read Revelation? And I'm going to talk about this. If we look at this chart, and I know I've shown you this chart many times, where we can see that the sixth seal, the seventh trumpet, the seventh vial, Matthew 24, and Ezekiel 38 are all talking about the same event. This is all the same event, and we have to recognize this. And now, here's what I want everyone to do. If you're fairly new to us, you haven't seen my study on Revelation, you weren't here for the live stream we did. Here's what I want everyone to do. If you're interested in understanding Revelation, do the same thing I did. Read it over and over and over and over and over and over, like literally like 20 times. And when you do that, you can, it takes about an hour to read, depending on how fast you read. But if you read it and just read it, and I'm not talking about all in the same day, right? Over a period of time, read it. Just read it over and over and over and over and over. Because you'll really start understanding how all of these timelines converge, how the seals and the trumpets and the vials all end at the same place. They literally do. The seals and the trumpets and the vials are all a series of events that are completely separate from each other, except they all end at the same place at the coming of the Lord, when he comes in the clouds of heaven with power and glory and pours out his wrath. So this is how you read Revelation. I usually, when I go through the Revelation study, I kind of talk about this list I have here a little bit, but I mostly gloss over most of it. Today I'm going to actually go through this list, because this list proves to us how all the different parts of Revelation are not sequential, chronological events. And that's the thing we have to understand, is that it is not a chronological record of events. It doesn't start in the beginning and then it goes through time and ends at the end. That is not how to read Revelation. It's impossible to make sense of if you try to read it that way. That's why there's so many crazy, whacked out, people explanations of Revelation,
Right.
and all of these weird teachings, because they try to read it the wrong way.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make sense. If you read it understanding that John was shown these visions, and he'll actually start on a certain set of visions, and then he'll talk about another vision, which is sometimes happening at the same time as the one he was talking about. And then he goes on to continue the first one he was talking about, because a lot of the visions John sees are happening at the same time. They're not happening one after the other. A lot of them happen at the same time, or at certain parts of them happen at the same time. Typically towards the end, they're all happening all at the same time. Especially towards the very end, when God begins pouring out his wrath in the last few weeks, everything is all happening and wrapping up to that event. So that's what's so important to understand. And I'm going to show you here, and I've got a list of 13 things that I point out that show us how to read Revelation, and it basically shows us that you can't read it as a sequential, chronological record of events. For example, Revelation 13, 1 through 10 tells us about the beast, the Antichrist, and the one world government he's going to rule. And, for 42 months, specifically tells us that, and it tells us that the dragon, who is Satan, gives him his power, and that all that dwell on the earth shall worship him. Right? Well, except for us. Right? Those that love the Lord Jesus are the ones that will not worship the Antichrist. Everyone else is going to. Everyone else is going to fall for the deception or be forced into doing this through the mark of the beast. But then in verse 12, John starts telling us about this other beast, the false prophet, and how that man causes them that dwell on the earth to worship the Antichrist. And he does miracles and wonders like pulling fire right out of thin air, causing the people to believe that he's from God and causing them to believe and worship the Antichrist. So this sequence of these two visions, the false prophet doesn't come after the Antichrist is already ruling the world.
Mm-mm.
The false prophet is what causes the world to worship the Antichrist.
Mm-hmm.
It's the miracles that he does, pulling fire right out of thin air, that causes the world to be fooled into believing this man. So he definitely the false prophet doesn't come after the Antichrist. So the reason I make this point is because Revelation 13 goes into the vision of the Antichrist and then the vision of the false prophet. It is not a sequential record. It doesn't happen in that order. We don't see the false prophet coming after the Antichrist. And we know that specifically because it tells us what he does is to cause the world to believe in the Antichrist and to worship him. So the world wasn't already under his control and worshiping him. So it's important to understand that. that is not a sequential chronological record. So, and then there's, and if you don't think that that's necessarily, a valid argument, then I got 12 more for you. So, Revelation 13 shows us the events that happen in the same time period as Revelation 12 and Revelation 11. Right? I know there's a lot of people that teach that these are all separate 3.5-year periods of time. But that's because they're trying to read Revelation as if it's a sequential chronological record. And so there's all these different 3.5-year periods of time. No, these 3.5-year periods of time are all the same 3.5-year period of time, except for the two parts of chapter 12, where we've got the first half of the final 7 years and the second half of the final 7 years. But otherwise, these are all the same 3.5-year period of time. So it's not a sequential record.
American says the beast will worship the beast gem. His deadly wound is killed, and he kills the saints. The world will worship the beast when his wound is healed, and he kills the saints. Oh, okay.
So, American, let me show you something, because I know a lot of people teach that the deadly wound was given to the man, the Antichrist. But I want to point this out. We're shown the 13 kings or nations and their rulers of Daniel 7 are one here in Revelation 13. So all of the beasts, which are kings, rulers of nations, become one government that the Antichrist rules. And it's one of the heads of this 13 nation union. Right? Because it's a 7-headed, 10-horned beast, and one of his heads was wounded to death. Only one of the heads.
Mm-hmm. But the nations.
So this is not the Antichrist being wounded to death and living. This is one of the nations that died and rose again. It's very specific. One of the heads of this beast, the 7-headed, 10-horned beast, which we know there's 13 nations involved here because of Daniel 7, is what it tells us specifically. So it's not the man that's wounded, even though it says, he was wounded with a sword and did live, right? No, this is in reference to the beast and the nation that died and lived. So it's really important to understand this. I know that a lot of people teach that it's the man who's like, he's going to die and rise again. The Bible doesn't tell us that at all. It doesn't tell us that this man is going to be resurrected. No, this is one of the nations that died. And that's why I really think it was Germany, when Germany was killed after the Second World War. The Third Reich was wounded. It was cut in half. Germany was cut in half. And that's why I think Germany really fits that, the 4-headed leopard really well.
So another question, the two, and it's funny because actually, American, you were not here last Sunday or last time or whatever, because Jay asked the same question. He said another question, the two witnesses that prophesy for 3.5 years, will that be before or during the reign of the beast?
Well, notice that they're killed by the beast that rose out of the bottomless pit. The beast that ascendeth out of bottomless pit shall make war against them and shall overcome them and kill them. It's only at the end of their 3.5-year period that they're on the earth doing these things that they're able to be killed before that, if anyone hurts them, fire proceeds out of their mouth and so on, and nobody can hurt them. But it's the beast that ascends out of the bottomless pit that makes war with them and overcomes them and kills them at the end of that 3.5 years. And their dead bodies lie in the street of the great city, which is spiritually called Sodom and Egypt, where our Lord was crucified, which is Jerusalem. And then all the people of the earth, will rejoice and make merry and send gifts to one another because these men finally got killed.
Yeah, they're Jews.
And then after 3 days and a half, the spirit of life from God entered into them, and they stood on their feet, and great fear fell upon them. Right? And then there was a great earthquake, and the second woe is past. And behold, the third woe cometh quickly.
The second woe. The
seventh trumpet is the end. It brings the wrath of God. So this is almost certainly the last 3.5 year period. So this is during the reign of the Antichrist. Yes.
Okay, so I have a question. And I've sat through this study for 12 years and I still have questions. Because they went from talking about the two witnesses and then the second woe is past. That's the war. So is that chronological?
Well, the second woe has already blown. And behold, the third comes quickly. So does that mean that the second woe just happened?
Could be. Well, could it be that quickly, it is past? It's passed by the second 3.5 years.
The second woe is done. It's already in the past. And here comes the third woe quickly now.
Okay, I see.
That's what it's.
So it could have.
That doesn't mean that the second woe just happened.
Okay.
At that time.
He said Revelation 13:14. Must be talking about.
Yeah, that's where we see that the second beast it deceives them, and they should make image to the beast, right? Oh, and then you're talking about which had the wound by a sword and did live, right? Yeah. But again, just like up here, it's referring to this 13 nation union. And one of the heads. If we understand that, we have to understand that what it says here isn't nullified by anything it says later, right? This is not changed or different, and it's talking about the same wound. So one of his heads, so one of the nations died and rose again. So even when it talks about it down here, an image to the beast which had the wound by a sword and did live does not mean that the Antichrist is going to be killed by a sword and resurrected. It's talking about this beast, that his power base, right? Because all of the beasts, like all of the beasts in Daniel 7, it's the same as this beast, where it's the king and the nation it rules. Right? All of the beasts of Daniel 7 are nations and their rulers. Here, it's the combined nations, the 13 nation union, which is the military and political power base of the Antichrist, and him. So when it talks about the beast, it's referring to the Antichrist and his kingdom.
Okay.
And it's important to understand that.
And then he said, great question, probably when I asked about the woe or whatever. He said, great question, because the third woe is Satan being kicked out of heaven.
So the third woe is not Satan being kicked out of heaven.
And then Jay has a question.
So before we go to Jay's question, so the third woe is the seventh trumpet. The seventh trumpet brings the wrath of God at the end of the tribulation. But Satan is actually kicked out of heaven 3.5 years before the end, because we see that it actually gives us the time frame here where, the dragon was cast to the earth. He was, having great wrath because he has but a short time. And then during that, the woman is given the wings of a great eagle, where she's nourished for a time and times and half a time, which is a year, 2 years, and half a year. This is the same 3.5 year period where Satan is cast to the earth, where he's ruling through the Antichrist. This is the same period of time that the Antichrist rules, for that 3.5 years. The seventh woe, or the third woe, the seventh trumpet, comes at the end of that. So it doesn't coincide with Satan being cast to the earth. No.
Okay, so Jay says the beast that comes out of the bottomless pit is the same 7-headed, 10-horned beast.
Well, that's the thing. That's one of the things that I ponder a lot, Jay, is this: when the bottomless pit is opened in the fifth trumpet, and all of the locusts swarm out. That's the same as the abyss or the deep, that remember the legion, the demons legion. They were called legion because there were many. They begged Jesus not to be cast into the deep.
Yes.
Well, that's the same as the bottomless pit. It's the same Greek word, just interpreted 2 different ways and translated differently, but it's the same place. And it's where all these demons are. And when the pit's opened, all of these locust creatures are really, they're almost certainly going to be demons in this form.
Right.
That are attacking and hurting men. Now the beast rises up out of the pit, which I think it's going to be Pazuzu, this very powerful demon that was worshipped back in the old thousands of years ago. And I don't know that it's the same beast necessarily as Revelation 13, because that's the kingdom of the Antichrist. This beast is almost certainly going to be a demon, a devil, but not necessarily Satan.
If yes, then the beast is the one that kills the 2 witnesses.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not necessarily the Antichrist that kills the 2 witnesses. It's this demon creature that came out of the pit that kills the 2 witnesses.
And then he says almost like they preached before it arrived, then arrived and killed them.
Wait, say that again?
Because he was saying, is it the same? If yes, then is this a beast? Then beast is the one that kills the 2 witnesses. Almost like they preached, the 2 witnesses were preaching about it before it arrived, and then it arrives and kills them.
But actually the beast arrives before this, because the fifth trumpet almost certainly comes before the reign of the Antichrist.
Oh, okay.
So it doesn't mean that the beast just came out of the pit. I don't believe that it really insinuates that. Or, I mean, we can ponder this definitely.
Yeah.
But I don't believe that this beast that came out of the bottomless pit is the same as is not Satan himself. It's not the beast of the kingdom of the Antichrist, right? The word beast is used so many different times, and it's not always referring to the same thing, but a lot of times it refers to a king and the king's kingdom. But in this case, it's this beast that ascended out of the bottomless pit, which is almost certainly a very powerful demon. And we know, I've talked about this before, where in Daniel we see that there was actually a demon that held the archangel back from visiting Daniel for 21 days until he got another archangel to come and help him get through. So there are certain demons that are very, very powerful, and this is probably one of those, and he is able, only after God says it's okay for them to die is it does it actually succeed in killing them, because it's not that it wasn't there, it's that nothing can hurt them or kill them, because God is stopping anyone from hurting them or killing them until the very end. And I believe that this coincides with the rapture. Yeah. This coincides with when we are all taken up to be with Jesus in the clouds. And that's when the seventh trumpet begins to sound, which is the third woe cometh quickly.
And then American says, what about when it says the beast who was and is not and is yet to come, that he comes out of the bottomless pit and is an angel named Abaddon or Apollyon?
Well, that's in the fifth trumpet, and it's not the same thing as in Revelation 17.
Yeah, right. Which he said 11. Revelation 17:11 is the beast, and Revelation 12:12 is the third woe.
And remember, so
12:12 is,
Well, no, I do not believe that is correct, American. Because because it says, woe to the inhabitants of the earth and sea, for the devil has come down unto you having great wrath. That is not the third woe. It just uses the word woe there, but it's not the third woe, right? This is just woe unto the earth, because now Satan is confined to the earth having great wrath, which is actually what the tribulation is the wrath of Satan when he's here for 3.5 years having great wrath and ruling the world through Satan.
Where is the third
or through the Antichrist?
The third woe.
The third woe is the seventh trumpet.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, where in Scripture?
Oh, but chapter 11.
The second woe is past, and then the third comes quickly.
Yeah. And then, this is one of the places that I ponder the most. As this beast that thou sawest shall ascend out of the bottomless pit and go into perdition, and so this one kind of makes you think that maybe this demon, wow, that was loud.
Wow.
Maybe this demon possesses the Antichrist, or maybe this demon also has some part. Now, so I'm going to throw another twist into this, because you see that there are 3 unclean spirits that come out of the mouth of the dragon, out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the prophet. Now, Satan and the Antichrist and the false prophet, but they're spirits that are in them, right? Like they're possessed by demons. So we could ponder this all day long. Who are these beasts? who is this beast? Who is this beast, right? Who is that beast?
And American too, because he's asking questions. They're like,
who is the beast? But remember, Abaddon and Apollyon. Apollyon and Abaddon is not the beast. It's the king over them. And it's the angel of the bottomless pit. It is not this beast. Definitely not. So, yeah. I mean, those are really good questions, and they're stuff that I ponder all the time.
There's a pause right now between the two of them. I know the questions are going to come in just a minute.
So good questions. Definitely.
They're asking.
I thought about that.
Yeah.
And the thing is, we have to put all of those together and determine what they mean. And when we have to read all of the words, right? Just like the wound. The wound is to one of the kingdoms, how it died and rose again, and it was one of the heads of the beast. It was not the Antichrist. And so
an actual person.
That's why it's right. And that's why it's so important to really study this stuff. And I'm serious. Do like I did. Read it over and over and over and over, and don't try to interpret it all or translate it all. Just read it until you've got it in your head so full that you could almost quote it, right? Then things will really start to make sense. At least it did for me.
He said, I told y'all I've got questions.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
We like questions.
Yeah, we want
because
that.
I never thought of that.
Yeah.
And that's the thing.
Because everybody else might have the same question.
If you have a question, there's certainly other people that probably have the same one.
But you know you can ask.
Yeah. So we talked a lot about this and the timing of that. It's the same period of time that Satan is cast to the earth. It is not a sequential chronological record.
Yeah.
The two witnesses, the time of the Antichrist, the time of the wrath of Satan, it's all that same 3.5 year period, the last half of the final 7 years. So I'm not getting very far through this list very fast, but so then at the fifth trumpet, and here we go on the bottomless pit again, an angel opens the bottomless pit. And then in Revelation 11, the beast that ascends out of the bottomless pit kills the two witnesses, which is at the end of the same 3.5 year period. And then in Revelation 17:8, we see an explanation of the same beast, this devil that ascends out of the bottomless pit, and the subsequent explanation of where he gets his military power, the 10 kings. And John tells us about all this thing in several places, but this is not a chronological record, because Revelation 17 doesn't come after Revelation 13, right? It doesn't. Revelation 17 and 18 are talking about and describing the great whore and how she rides on the back of the beast, and so basically riding on the coattails. The false prophet, right, is the leader of the great whore, almost certainly. And it's not a chronological record. This is the same thing being talked about in several different places. But Revelation 17 doesn't happen after the wrath of God. The wrath of God is poured out in Revelation 16.
That's the end.
Revelation 17, when the beast is talked about here, doesn't come after that. So it's definitely not a chronological record.
Right.
It can't be. And especially when you look at all of these things, it's impossible for it to be a chronological record. Revelation 7 tells us the same exact thing that happens in Revelation 21. So I'm gonna read it. Because listen to this. Therefore are they before the throne of God. Now these are they that came out of great tribulation, notice. These are people that went through the tribulation. They're before the throne of God. Serve him day and night in his temple, and he that sitteth on the throne shall dwell among them. They shall hunger no more, neither thirst any more, neither shall the sun light on them, nor any heat. For the Lamb which is in the midst of the throne shall feed them and lead them unto living fountains of waters, and God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes. Now look at Revelation 21. Behold, the tabernacle of God is with men, and he will dwell with them. And they shall be his people, and God himself shall be with them and be their God. And God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes, and there shall be no more death, neither sorrow, nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain. For the former things are passed away. Now, God doesn't conclude everything in chapter 7.
Right.
And then all this other stuff happens after that.
Right.
No, this is the conclusion. This is a vision of the multitude of those that came out of the Great Tribulation.
I think that's why people misunderstand it, like the church view, like how we grew up. Because they were trying to read it in order, and it's not in order, because that would almost be like, okay, this is the end, that's the rapture, and now they're going to go through the tribulation.
Well, and this is one of the places that people that twist the scriptures.
Yeah.
This is one of their proofs that the rapture happens before all this other stuff.
Right.
because it's listed here.
That's what I just said. But that is a song. It's called These Are They.
But it's just because they absolutely, these are they. It's a song.
Yeah.
And this is why there's so many liars and deceivers out there teaching, and they may not know they're lying. They're just regurgitating the lie they believe. But they don't know how to read this book. And all you have to do.
You gotta think too. I mean, they're teaching you that there's a 7-year tribulation. So
I know.
Yes.
And it's not 7 years. Yeah. So this is, and it's the same lies they've been teaching since the 1800s, literally. Yeah. That's where these lies came from, the 1800s. But so this is impossible for it to be sequential. It can't be. And then in Revelation 8:2, John records 7 trumpets given to 7 angels, and then in 8:3 through 5, he has this whole other vision with things that happen with the angel. And then in Revelation 8:6, he returns to the 7 angels with the 7 trumpets. So you can see how it's a circular thing. He's talking about these 7 trumpets and the 7 angels, and then this whole other vision, which is happening during the same period of time. When you read that, you can see that it actually ends at the same place. Oops. YouTube. Make sure I go to the right place here. When you see this, and then there's the smoke, which is the prayer of the saints, right? And then the angel took the censer, filled it with the altar, fire from the altar, cast it to the earth, and there were voices and thunderings and lightnings and an earthquake, which those events actually match the same things as the 7th trumpet, the 6th seal, the 7th vial, the voices, thunderings, and lightnings. So this little vision here is also happening during all of these other events, which is a thing that gives us comfort, right?
Yeah.
Because we see that the smoke of our prayers is ascending up before God. He hears our prayers even when all of this is happening.
Oh, yeah, he's not going to abandon us.
Yeah. And then Revelation 15:1 states that John saw 7 angels with the 7 last plagues, filled up with the wrath of God. But then in verse 6 and 7, we then see the angels come out of the temple and they're given the vials. So in verse 1, he's stating something that was already done, and then he goes back and says, this is when they came out and they were given them. After. So it's like it can't be sequential because they already had the vials with the last plagues, but then they're shown coming out of the temple and given the vials. So it is not a sequential thing. This may seem like a frivolous point, but I bring up all these points because all of these points prove that you cannot read Revelation as if it's sequentially chronological. It is not. And then here's a good one. This is basically this chart here, right? The 6th seal, the 7th trumpet, the 7th vial, Matthew 24, Ezekiel 38. These are all the same event, right? This is the 7th trumpet, 7th vial, Ezekiel 38. And then, it is done. The statement, it is done, appears in Revelation 21 and Ezekiel 38 or Ezekiel 39 and Revelation 16. So he's saying that Revelation 16, it was done, but then it's not really done until Revelation 21. No, it's because remember at the end of Revelation 16, that's the pouring of the wrath of God. When God finishes pouring his wrath out, that's when he descends and finishes and touches down on the Mount of Olives and wipes out the armies of the Antichrist and takes over the world and begins the 1,000-year reign. That's why it's done at the end of Revelation 16. But then 17 and 18, he talks about the great whore. In Revelation 19, he goes back to to the Battle of Armageddon and the return of Christ. It is not sequential. It wasn't done in Revelation 16, and then all this other stuff happened after that. It's because Revelation 16 shows us the end.
Mm-hmm.
But then Revelation 21 also talks about that same period of time.
I think God made it like that so we would study it.
Well, that's,
And there's so many people who don't study it.
yeah. And that's exactly what I teach all the time. You remember how Jesus taught in parables?
Yeah.
And when the disciples asked, why do you teach in parables?
For that reason.
Because I don't want them to understand. Prophecy's written in the same way. You can't understand it by listening to all the deceived, for sure. You can only understand it by seeking God and reading it and studying it.
Mm-hmm.
Then we can understand it. Why do I understand it? It's only because God has given me this understanding. I can't claim anything for myself. I've spent hours, literal thousands of hours studying the scriptures and studying prophecies and studying all of these things. And I'm not telling you to do something I didn't do. I actually read Revelation over and over and over and over to get it in my head, and then started looking at it going, aha.
Yeah.
And studying it for myself.
But I think that a person, they don't have to be a teacher or anybody can understand it if they just choose to want the truth.
Exactly.
And then God gives you that. God's not going to say, well, I don't know. I'm going to decide not to do that. I don't believe that. I believe
God's
God
promise
will show you.
Is that if you seek, you will find.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to truly seek. You've got to love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. That means every ounce of your being loves God and seeks him. If you seek him and you seek his truth and you study to show yourself approved, you will be shown the truth.
Yeah.
But not until then. You can't come at it half-hearted and expect God to do anything for you.
And that's American and Jay. With all their questions, they really want to know. They really want to know.
They're coming at
They're
it wholeheartedly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So Revelation 16 starts the Battle of Armageddon. This is a really good one. Revelation 16 starts the Battle of Armageddon because remember, they're gathered together unto battle at the end of the vials. But then 17 and 18 explain the great whore. Yeah. And then in chapter 19, he picks up the Battle of Armageddon again. But the Battle of Armageddon is at the end. It's when he returns, puts down the governments of men, wipes out the Antichrist, throws the Antichrist and false prophet in the lake of fire, chains up Satan in the bottomless pit, and takes over the world for 1,000 years. 17 and 18 didn't happen after that. That's completely devoted to explaining who the great whore is. And when we look at all the different components of the great whore, we can see that she is the Roman Catholic Church. That's speculation, but read it yourself. Tell me how it doesn't fit.
It pretty much describes.
That she is the only entity that fits all of the things described about her.
Sure it is.
So it's not sequential. Revelation 16 states that the Euphrates River is dried up to make way for the kings of the east. Mm-hmm. And then Revelation 16, verses 13 and 14 state that the three spirits go out to gather the kings. So which happens first? The river dried up to make way for those kings, or the spirit going to gather those kings? Are they happening at the same time? I think they're happening. I think the spirits go out to gather the kings, and then the river is dried up to make way for them. Yeah. It could be either way. It could be happening at the same time. It is not necessarily sequential. That's my point.
How could that be happening at the same time, though?
I know.
Well, the river could be could be drying up as the spirits go out to gather the kings.
Oh.
All right. And then Revelation 11 19 and 15:5 both state the temple in heaven is opened. But when we study these events, now look at Revelation 11:19. What is it? That's the seventh trumpet being blown. And the seventh trumpet has blown, and the temple of God was opened in heaven. And there were lightnings and voices and thunderings and an earthquake and great hail. Now look at Revelation 15. What did I say it was? 15:5. Yeah. And after that I looked, and behold, the temple of the tabernacle of the testimony in heaven was opened. This is the seventh trumpet. It's the same timing as the seventh trumpet. Remember what happens in the seventh trumpet? What happens at the seventh trumpet?
The rapture. The saints are gathered. The wrath.
The wrath.
Oh, so see, I always misunderstood that, because I always thought that the trumpet
the time
was when Jesus ascended or whatever and brought us all up.
It is.
This is the whole
This
thing.
is when, remember in Revelation 10, in the days of the voice of the seventh angel, when he shall begin to sound.
Okay, begin. Yeah, because it's an event.
The mystery of God should be finished, because that's when Jesus appears in the clouds of heaven with power and glory and takes us out of the way. And then immediately begins pouring out his wrath. That's when he pours out his wrath, right?
Uh-huh.
And the temple was opened in heaven, but the thing about this temple being opened that I like to point out is that the temple is opened, but then the seven angels come out of the temple having the seven plagues. And then, he says in 16, says, go and pour out the vials of the wrath of God. At the end of 15, the temple was filled with smoke from the glory of God and from his power. And no man was able to enter into the temple till the seven plagues of the seven angels were fulfilled.
Mm.
I do not believe that anyone will be able to be saved during the pouring of the wrath of God. No one will be able to cry out to God at that point.
He's too mad. Ooh.
Because it's too late then. Now God is pouring out his wrath. He's holding back his wrath right now.
Yeah,
He's waiting
I can see that.
to save as many as he can. But once he takes us out of the way, he's pouring out his wrath. And I believe that means that no one can be saved during the pouring of the wrath. I could be wrong about that, but that's what it sounds like to me.
So American said this is, well, I'm asking him if he's talking about Armageddon. He said this is when the New Jerusalem and the two witnesses are introduced, right? Is it, you mean Armageddon? Like, what are you asking?
No,
like when?
Because Armageddon is actually the last vial.
I'm just asking to make sure that that's when he's what he's talking about, referring to.
The last bowl or last vial is the Battle of Armageddon.
Yeah.
Because this is the three unclean spirits come out of the mouth to go and gather the kings, and they gathered them together into a place in the Hebrew tongue. I'm sorry, the sixth bowl, my bad, sixth seal, seventh trumpet, seventh vial are all the wrath of God. And they're all the same, they have the same events, but the wrath is all of the vials. So all of the wrath is poured out at the very end. And when we look at all the timings, there's like 45-day and 75-day periods that were given that I believe encompasses the wrath of God, probably 45 days, where all of these things are happening. And they're gathered together unto a place called Armageddon. This is at the end of the wrath of God that this happens. They're gathered together. And then in Revelation 19, we see that this is when Christ returns and wipes out all the kings that are coming against Israel. This is the Battle of Armageddon, is actually in Revelation 19. In Revelation 16, it only announces the beginning of the gathering of the kings and the nations to come against Israel. But it's actually Revelation 19, we see the actual, it's not even a war. I mean, Jesus just speaks a word and wipes them out.
I like
There's
where it
no
says
actual battle.
on his thigh says the King of Kings.
King of Kings and Lord of Lords. Yes.
It's written on his thigh.
Yeah. Yeah.
The King of Kings and the Lord of Lords.
Yeah. Yeah. So the Battle of Armageddon is just a very short period of time. I know that there's so many people that teach that Armageddon is this 7-year period of calamity on the earth. That's just a big lie. It makes no sense. It doesn't even follow scripture at all. Armageddon is just that final. It's when the Antichrist, and I'll tell you what he's going to be doing, because Muslims hate Israel and they want to wipe out Israel and they blame everything that happens on Israel. And they're going to say, because if you look at the false prophecies that Satan set up in Islam, when all of this happens and when Jesus appears in the clouds of heaven with power and glory, they're going to say that it's the Antichrist, that it's the Dajjal of Islam.
Yeah.
And it says in Islam that they're actually going to come and that their Mahdi will bring a great army and will defeat the Dajjal. So they're actually during the wrath of God, they're actually going to think that they can come and wipe out Israel and defeat the enemy. And so
when the wrath of God happens, they're going to go, we miscalculated this one.
Oh, but this is during the wrath of God. That at the end.
Do you really think they're going to try and do that during the wrath of God?
That's what it says. At the end of the wrath of God, they're going to actually bring the armies of the Antichrist. Are going to bring them across the Euphrates River, down through the valley of Megiddo, into southern, heading from the north to the south, and come trying to wipe out Israel. And that's when Jesus says no, wipes them out.
So American has another question. He said, why would the 10 kings attack Babylon and then fight with the beast against Jesus?
All right, so
Babylon.
So when you say Babylon, you mean Mystery Babylon, right? The 10 kings attacking Babylon,
and then fight with the beast.
So you're gonna have to tell me where the 10 kings attack Babylon, because that doesn't match scripture that I know of. The 10 kings will align with the Antichrist. He will be they'll be his power base, and they'll actually hate the whore in Revelation 17.
Fight with the beast. Okay.
Huh?
Yeah, that was the part. He said, and then the 10 kings will then fight. Then fight with the beast.
Yes.
Yeah.
The 10 kings will be his main power base, and then he aligns with the other 3 beasts of Daniel 7, the lion, the bear, and the leopard, creates that 13 union nation, or 13 nation union. Sorry.
He said it's going to be crazy because at this time, I believe the New Jerusalem will be seen by many as a floating city. They'll probably say it's an alien invader. Yes, Mystery Babylon, the whore.
Yeah, but remember that New Jerusalem doesn't come until after the 1,000-year reign. So nobody's going to see this, and it's going to be, a new heaven and a new earth. God is going to recreate heaven and earth. And then we see the New Jerusalem coming down on the new earth. So it's not going to exist before, well, there's anyone who doesn't belong to God on the earth. So there won't be anyone to call in an alien ship or anything, because this doesn't come until after after everything, after the 1,000-year reign is over.
He said God puts it in the will of the 10 kings to attack the whore.
Yeah, Revelation 17:17. Yeah, it's God puts it in their heart. Yeah. Well, not to attack the whore, but to give their kingdom to the beast. Right. So the 10 kings hate the whore.
Yeah, that's what Jesus said.
Now here's one of the reasons that I'm absolutely certain that the whore is the Catholic Church, and that the religion of the Antichrist and these 10 kings are all Muslim nations, because they hate Christianity. They hate the Catholic Church. They hate Jews and Christians, and they hate the whore. They hate the whore, but they're going to align because God puts it in their hearts to give their kingdom unto the beast. So they're going to do it, even though he aligns with the Catholic Church, right? The Catholic Church is going to submit to Islam, but he's going to make an alliance, and he's going to have the Pope as his little sidekick, right?
His little do-boy.
And so they're not going to be happy about that, but they're going to do it anyway because God makes them do it.
Jason. Jay said something, and then he said, "Oh, ignore my last comment."
So
I'm going to respect that. He said, and then American said, New Jerusalem, Revelation 11:2.
Revelation 11:2. Oh, this is not the New Jerusalem. Sorry. This is the rebuilt temple in Jerusalem, not the New Jerusalem. This is the existing Jerusalem. And this is, remember, this is also going to be tread underfoot for 42 months. This is another 3.5-year period of time that we're given here. This is when the temple gets rebuilt, and probably in the beginning of the final 7 years, because they're going to sign a peace treaty and they're going to give them permission to build it. They've already got everything ready. They'll have it slapped up in a matter of a couple of months, probably. And so they'll resume animal sacrifices. And so this is not the New Jerusalem. It's the existing Jerusalem and at a rebuilt temple. And I just uploaded a video on the temple and why we know it's a real place, why we know the Antichrist is a man. If you haven't seen that, it's on Rumble and YouTube. I just uploaded it yesterday, I think.
Yeah, there's one today.
Was that today? I don't know. I don't remember.
Or maybe I saw
upload
it this
stuff so
morning.
often.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think you saw it this morning. I think I did it yesterday.
He doesn't remember. He's been out of it today.
I really have. I need to get this surgery over with. Yeah, it was a day ago. It was yesterday.
Yeah. I saw it this morning.
Yeah, you saw the notification.
Yeah.
So, Revelation 11 and 15. Okay, so last two things here. Revelation 14:20, the winepress of the wrath of God is trodden. But then it's not until Revelation 19 that Jesus treads the winepress of the wrath of God. Because remember, Revelation 19 is the Battle of Armageddon. This is when the wrath of God is being poured out. But we don't. Revelation 14 shows the gathering of the saints. There's so many things. It's not something that happens in 14, then and again in 19, right? This is just, it shows Christ coming in the cloud and gathering up his own and the winepress of the wrath of God beginning. And then again in 19, we see the same event because it's talking about the same event. It's not happening twice. And then in Revelation 10, but in the days of the voice of the seventh angel, when he shall begin to sound. But then In Revelation 11, the second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly. So wait a minute. How could the seventh angel begin to sound in chapter 10, but then it's not happening until after at the end of 11?
Yeah.
It is definitely not a chronological record. Anyone who actually spends the time to study this and reads Revelation enough times and studies it out cannot believe that it's a chronological record. It's impossible.
Well, then what, can you read all of Revelation and then pick out books where you also find specific things mentioned again and use the other books as backups?
Oh, Daniel is Daniel and Revelation are very parallel. Yes. A lot of the things. Yeah. And then Zechariah, Joel. Yeah. There's lots of other prophets that talk about these last days and the same things.
Isaiah too.
Yeah. So then, down below this chart, I just want to show you this before we say goodbye, because I'm not gonna go through all of this. But then, down below the chart, which is just below this list we just looked at, if you click on this See More tab, and you see there's a list here of things that even if none of that has convinced you of anything, and if you look at this chart and just don't believe that it really is the same event, and you still think it's a chronological record, then ask these questions to yourself.
Yeah, that's good.
Right? How many times does Babylon fall? Is there one earthquake or 5? Is there going to be great darkness twice? Does great hail fall twice? Will mountains and islands move twice? And then God's wrath is spoken as a future event in chapters 14 and 15. Mm-hmm. But it's also talked about in chapters 6 and 11. How could it be a future event?
They can also look at the timeline that you have of everything.
Yes, which is the last thing I'm going to show. So if you want, take a look at those questions and really ask those questions. Is it even possible? But then it's at the bottom of this page but I have a link at the top to jump to the timeline, and it goes down to the timeline. And then I have a chart here, this is a JPEG image. You probably don't want to click that. I would click the PDF, because the PDF you can actually enlarge to the size of your screen, and you can scroll across, and it actually has the timeline of the entire book of Revelation. But I also have a companion document that actually is a list that follows the chart, basically. And it goes through the actual timings of everything in Revelation and when the things happen in the timeline. It definitely, I'm not going to go through that today. I'm not going to try to study the entire book of Revelation, but what I did today, hopefully, was inspire you to learn how to read it and to read it yourself, and to actually go and spend the time to read it over and over and over and over, and really get all the visions in your head, get it all in your head, and then start reading it and putting all those pieces and the timelines together, because you have to understand that it's not a sequential timeline. It is, everything leads up to the day of the Lord. Mm-hmm. The book of Revelation is the revelation of Jesus Christ. It all leads to the day of the Lord and the coming of Christ. All of these events, all of these visions, all lead to Christ's coming and then establishing his kingdom. That's it. You can't understand it unless you understand that. So I hope this is inspired. I hope this has helped. There's the timeline, or not the timeline, the playlist, 21 videos. And then you can go to YouTube. I should link it there, because I have 2 playlists here on YouTube and Rumble. One of them was that full 21 video series, but then I also have a live where we did a live 12 live streams over about a year ago where we talk about it too. So I'm not going to do it again right now. Maybe I will again in another few months or something, but right now we've got that one that anyone interested can look at that. You can watch these. I did these videos, I think like 6 years ago or so, but this was just a year ago, the live stream. So check it out. Look at the timeline. Look at the document I showed you. Go and study this. I put this together not to try to tell you what Revelation means, but to help you understand how to read it. That's why I did this entire chapter, was to just go through. I go through it chapter by chapter, chapters 1 through 3, 4, 5. Study this, and it not because of the words that I have on it, but so that you can look at like the other places I talk about things, and I point out how Revelation has different, this chapter has this and this chapter has that, and I point out Ezekiel and how Ezekiel has the same beasts of chapter 4 and things like that. I just point out other places for you to study. It just use it as a study guide, not as a this is what you're supposed to believe. Just use it as a study guide, or just read it over and over and over, Revelation, and ask God to give you the understanding, and then read Daniel and read Ezekiel and Isaiah and Joel and put it all together. Spend the time studying like I did. I don't want you to just believe what I say. I want you to study it yourself and understand it and believe it because you read it and understand it from Scripture. All right. We're going to say goodbye now.
Bye.
Bye. All right, we'll pray real quick and then we'll say adios. Thank you, Lord, for giving us all this information, for providing with us for us the entire game plan, exactly how things are going to play out. We don't have to worry. We don't have to wonder. We know because you gave us the information. We're so grateful, Lord. Thank you for being such a gracious, merciful, loving, long-suffering, and wonderful God. We love you, Lord. Yeah. Thank you in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Jay and American, we love you guys.
Yeah, thanks for the questions. We like them.
Jay says, thanks, guys. Love the message. Still studying Revelation. I know. I've been through this study for 12 years now, and I still ask questions.
20 times.
I was just asking questions tonight.
Because we've done this.
And I never thought about the beast, when it keeps mentioning the beast throughout the Bible until you brought that up, and it was like,
and there's still some things to ponder about that, right? I mean, I've studied this so much, I've taught it so much that there's just some things that are still a little bit of a question until it comes to pass, right?
I want to show this picture. I know that I keep looking over there, and this is what I'm looking at.
Our dog.
He's in this tiny little bed.
He loves that little mat.
Do you see
He's
that?
a 65-pound dog, but he loves to curl up in this little
and
bed.
I hear him snoring, and so I look over, and he's so cute.
He's so funny.
Yeah, I know. He sleeps during Bible study. He's quiet.
Good boy.
He's usually banging his.
Sometimes you see him going behind us over here.
Yeah. So anyway, so those who are still hanging out with us, we really, really appreciate you. If you are new to this channel, you live stream from Rumble or YouTube, we really, really appreciate you. And we pray that you will continue to come back Wednesday and Sunday, Eastern time, 6:30.
And don't forget, as I said, we will not be here Wednesday.
Yeah, we won't be here Thursday.
Because I have
You're
a
going over
surgery,
tonight.
and we may or may not be here next Sunday.
Next Sunday. Yeah, so just kind of watch. But you can always reach out because he will be checking emails.
Yeah, send me an email, you know.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be out of it. I'll just be kind of bedridden for a while until
just a couple
I
days.
heal
Yeah,
up
a few days. Yeah, until.
But I'll still be, you know, you can send me an email, you can send me comments, things like that.
Yeah. I don't have Jay's, but he'll find out. Jay keeps in touch with you fairly regularly.
Yeah, we chat on Gab.
Yeah, so you can let him know when you're feeling better, how you're doing and everything.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, so please will you subscribe to this channel? Yes. Smash the like button. Share the video. Yeah, whatever that thing's called. Notification bell. Ding, ding, ding. Ding, 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 ding.
And share.
Yes.
Share
the video with your friends and
reach
family.
more people.
Yes.
All we care about is getting the word out, dispelling those lies that are out there, and helping people to understand. That's
Sheila.
Our whole goal.
Yeah, Sheila says,
Sheila, welcome,
God
sister.
bless you. Thank you for teaching us. Appreciate it. Well, thank you for being here, Sheila. You know we love you. We do. Sis, you want to do a spiel real quick so we can get out of here? Yeah, we love Sheila.
Okay, little card. Oh.
What is that thing?
What is that thing?
This is my little friend.
What is it? You don't carry that on the bus or anything.
This is my little card.
How many have you left?
She has a car. She doesn't ride the bus.
This is my little card. And he helps me to know what's going on here. So let me take a look here what you've got. BibleProphecyandTruth.com. He's such a smart little guy. Isn't he cute? So you can go there if you want to find some real cool content. You can study the Bible by going on to his website, Dan's website. You learn so many things and you get the truth. Oh, and we got youtube.com/prophecyandtruth. Oh, you see, you can go there to watch our videos, huh? Oh, okay. And you can join us on the live stream. You can also join us on the live stream. Let me see here at rumble.com/BibleProphecy. You are one smart cookie. Oh, can't forget now, if you have any questions or any comments for Dan on anything that you've learned on the live streams or anything you've seen on the internet, send them an email. prophecyandtruth@gmail.com. Little card, you are so cute. 99.
American said, I hope all goes well with the surgery.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
You know, God.
Thank you so much.
God's got us. We're in his hands.
It's a bump.
So,
it's a bump in the road.
I pray for you guys every single day.
Yeah, you know I'll be in touch with you. And you can reach out, send emails.
Send me an email, Gmail.
prophecyandtruth@gmail.com.
There you go.
So thank you everyone for being here.
So we are we will hopefully see you next Sunday.
Yeah,
hopefully. Turn on your notification bell so you don't miss it.
Yeah.
Right.
Hopefully I'll be feeling better by then.
Yeah, he will.
Yeah, we'll be praying hard for you.
Yeah, we appreciate that. Love you so much.
And all of your prayers, I definitely appreciate.
Yeah, we do appreciate
Thank you all.
that. So we're getting out here. So Sissy, I love you so much.
I love you guys.
Goodbye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Have a good day.